Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan Ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswatiji.
Welcome, everyone, to Inspiration and Transformation from the holy banks of the sacred Ganga River in the land of Rishikesh, India. Is fear the primary reason for our separation from each other? The primary reason for separation is ignorance. One of the repercussions of ignorance is fear. So here's what it looks like, and don't get too bogged down with the semantics and is it this or is it that. What's more important is that we understand the way out. Knowing what your chains are made of is less important than knowing how to undo them. So the root cause of our separation is ignorance. The truth of who we are. And this is core Vedic philosophy 101. The core of who we are is divine. The core of who we are is soul, spirit, truth, consciousness, awareness, God. Call it whatever you want to call it. It is one, it is all that exists. It is the only truth. That's the core of who we are. Because of a whole karmic package that is part of what we call God's Leela. Leela is the Sanskrit word for play or drama, sort of the divine play that God has created. Within that, we have these karmic packages that each of us is acting out and going through. And in those packages, we have physical bodies. Our physical bodies took birth in certain families of origin, certain countries, certain cultures, certain religions. Our families of origin, our situation gave us certain socioeconomic status, gave us certain educational opportunities, gave us certain exposure to different experiences. All of that is the building blocks of the ego that we create. So we create our identity out of all of those building blocks. I am this age, I am this culture, I am this religion, I am rich or I am poor, I am worthy, I am not worthy. These are judgments and experiences and identities that I have based on the drama of my family of origin, based on the drama of my early childhood experience. So I move through the world either with bricks that say, you are worthy of occupying your place on planet Earth, you are divine, or I move through with bricks that say, only if you achieve and succeed and are the best, then are you worthy. Either way, they're all bricks. They're just bricks made of different things, bricks of different colors. But they're all bricks that form this ego self, this story we tell ourselves about who we are. And along with that, we have, of course, our physical sensations. We have emotional reactions to the world. And so, for example, I've created this ego self. And if part of the ego self is gotta be successful, and suddenly I'm in a situation where there is competition for success, well, I've got to have it because that success determines my worthiness. What that means is that whoever I'm competing with for success is an automatic enemy. Because my very ego survival is dependent upon being the one who succeeds. And whether it's about success in a sprint race, whether it's success in something in the office place, whether it's success in any one of 100 other ways. Suddenly, the people I am competing against become other. I am separate from them. It's me or them. If part of my identity is that things don't usually work out for me, if I kind of move through the world as the victim, maybe I felt selected against as a child, maybe I wasn't my parents' favorite, maybe I had a learning issue in school and so teachers kind of selected against me and I grew up with some complex, whatever it may be. So I move through the world with this sense of being separate from others based on ability. But here's the thing. What these bricks are made of, the color the bricks are, the decoration on the bricks, is basically irrelevant. Every one of us moves through the world in this ignorance of separation because we all identify with this ego construct. What's different is what the construct is. It's like if you handed a bunch of kids an infinite number of Legos and you told them all to make something. Well, they would all make something totally different. What they all created isn't what's relevant. What's relevant is that they have created it out of the Legos you gave them, which are not self. Because if the kids then started to say, I am this, whatever they've made, I am this tower, I am this king, I am this cat, I am this house, whatever they've made with their Legos, if they started to identify as it, that creates the problem. And in our lives, we do the same thing. So we create this ego self based on bricks of color of our skin, race, religion, country, success, all of our different complexes. And I identify as that. That is me. These are the borders of me. I am separate from you. And that's rooted in ignorance. Because the truth is I'm not. Because remember, the truth is I'm not this Lego construct. I'm not this thing I've made with bricks. That's just the physical vehicle that my soul is using in this particular part of the journey to go through its karmic role in the divine Leela. That's all it is. But every bit of identification with it creates separation. Because if I identify as this, then I'm certainly not that. But the minute that I realize that I'm not this, that actually what I am is soul, spirit, truth, consciousness, divinity. Well, that's who you are too. Here we are, two very different looking Lego creations, but the same being in them. That's the truth. The separation is the ignorance. And the dilemma with this separation is it has a lot of repercussions. Fear, of course, is one of them. Depression is another. Basically, every single thing we suffer from is rooted in separation. Anger. If I'm one with you, who's to be angry at? Greed. If I'm full and divine in consciousness, what is there I don't have? What do I lack that I need? Greed disappears. The depression, the anxiety of feeling separate from the universe, all of it disappears. Because I realize I'm not separate. I realize I'm one. And so the core cause is ignorance. And of course, then the question becomes, well, so what do we do about it? Well, this is the role that meditation plays. When I actually realize that I'm one, when I actually realize that there is no distinction, when I actually realize that there is absolutely no distinction between me and the divine and consciousness and the world, it all dissipates. And so that's the experience we touch in meditation, but then it's the experience that we carry with us into the world. And when we stop being able to carry it, we remember to sit and meditate again.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Alaya, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, you are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit RAIN.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me. How do we control the mind? Practice. You know, I always say it's so interesting because we understand intuitively that every other part of our body requires a level of practice to get to where we want to be. Whether I'm learning to play sports, whether I'm learning to do art, whether I'm learning to do math, whether I'm learning to cook a good meal, whether I'm learning to ride a bike or drive a car, whatever my job may be, we all go through some training period. A lot of us learn on the job. You keep learning. So we understand intuitively that whether it's a muscular group that has to learn how to dance or play an instrument, or whether it's a mental thing that I have to learn how to figure out this filing system, But we all understand intuitively that I'm going to need to practice. But with the mind, interestingly, we somehow expect that the minute we decide we're going to sit down to meditate, that the mind should just obey as though it hasn't spent the last 30 or 40 or 60 years being given total free rein. It's like, imagine that you were handed an adult of 25, 30, 50, and someone said to you, okay, this person is really spoiled. Like their parents never said no to them. This person thinks they can do whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want. And the minute you start talking to them, you understand that. They don't let you finish a sentence. The minute you open your mouth, they talk over you. You tell them to do something, they laugh at you. They do the exact opposite. They do nothing you say to do. Okay. And then you're told, you've got 30 seconds. I'm going to go out, have a sip of water, and come back. And in 30 seconds, I want you to have trained this person. You'd be like, honey, what are you talking about? Their parents ruined them to begin with when they were kids, spoiled them rotten, never taught them any discipline, never gave them any responsibility. Now they've spent decades since they were children living as that spoiled being. Give me some time. Eventually, I'll be able to work with them. But you cannot just suddenly undo decades of bad parenting in a snap. But that's what we expect to be able to do with our minds. We are the parents who have spoiled our minds our entire lives. Our mind says, I want chocolate cake. What do? We go out and we get it, chocolate cake. The mind says, I want ice cream. We go out, we get it, ice cream. The mind says, I want to get drunk. We go out, we get drunk. The mind says, I want to do this other stupid thing. We go out, we do that other stupid thing. The mind says, I don't want to study. I want to party. What do? We party. We've trained our minds in a way that would be considered child abuse if you were allowed to do it to a child. Or if not abuse, certainly child neglect. People would say to you, honey, be a parent here. Like, what are you doing? This child is going to turn out, you don't even want to see what's going to happen to this kid when they grow up. But this is what we've done with our minds. Oh yeah, wherever you want to go, no problem. Here I am supposed to meditate, but no problem. You want to run off to a bar, a brothel, foreign country? No problem. Yeah, you go. That's okay. I'll just keep sitting here and pretend to meditate, but you run off. No problem. It's all good. We have no sense of discipline with our mind whatsoever, but we somehow expect it to just snap to because we've decided suddenly we're going to start to meditate. It takes a while. We have to unlearn patterns. But the great news is, actually, our mind can keep changing. Our brain can keep changing. I was studying neurology 25 years ago. And 25 years ago, they used to say that once the brain had myelinized, once you became kind of late adolescence, once the last parts of the brain had finished forming, you could no longer change the brain. That all you could do with people in their 20s and older, if they suffered from any psychological ailment, all you could do was give them medicine because you couldn't actually change the patterns in their brain. So if you had people with imbalances in different neurochemicals, all you could do was give them pills because the brain was set. But what we now know is what the sages and the rishis and the spiritual scientists told us thousands of years ago. Just that you can keep changing. But we now know it neurologically. If I take these two fingers and I tape them together for a week, my brain will change. If I'm right-handed and I break my right arm, or even if I don't break it, if I just stick it in a sling, pretend I broke it, and I don't use it at all for a week, and I have to do everything with my left hand, my brain will change. If you're used to wearing shoes and you go barefoot for a week, your brain will change. Everything we do is changing our brain. We now have got tons of research showing how meditation changes the brain. I'm not going to go into all of that, but the point is this control of the mind is something that we now know is not only possible in a very kind of theoretical, fuzzy, unprovable, like I think my mind has changed, I used to be one way, but I feel better type of way. We now actually can measure it. We now actually can see changes in people's brains. Which, although when we speak about the mind, most people would say, well, I don't mean the brain, I mean the mind. But the truth is, when you actually look at the manifestations of it, our experience of the mind is through the brain. It is my brain in which thoughts are taking place. It is my brain in which emotions are taking place. It is my brain in which I am having chemical and electrical reactions that are causing me to do all kinds of things or feel all kinds of things. So changing our brain changes our minds. And if you doubt that, think about any time that you ever used drugs or alcohol. Either prescription kinds or illegal kinds. Either way. They change your brain. I remember when I was in 5th grade, and I was about to get braces on my teeth, and I had to have 4 teeth pulled before they could do the braces. And they put me under this very, very strong drug anesthesia. And when I came out of it, and I couldn't think, and I was talking all kinds of nonsense, my mom, in those days, they didn't have, phones or cameras in your phones. It wasn't like she could just whip out her phone and, video me. It's the 70s. But she had a tape recorder. And she tape recorded my voice. And she saved the paper. She made me write on paper, and I was writing all kinds of nonsense, and I was babbling all kinds of nonsense. And as I became 13, 14, 15, she used to play that tape and show me that paper to remind me what drugs do to your brain. She used to say, if you ever think those are fun, if you ever think you want to try those, here's what you sound like on drugs. Here's what you looked like trying to write a note on drugs. And I mention this because drugs impact only our physical brain. I mean, drugs aren't touching our soul. Drugs aren't touching, when you think of our mind as something very deep. Well, drugs don't touch that. They have a half-life. They wear off. It's a purely physical, chemical thing. But something having a purely chemical, physical reaction in our brain not only impacts our brain, but it impacts our mind, which is why people all over the world all the time wake up hungover and say, oh my God, I can't believe I did that last night. Or say things like, I'm so upset, I'm so frustrated, I need to have a beer or have this or have that. Meaning that chemical, through changing my brain, is going to change my experience of my mind. I'm depressed, I'm frustrated, I'm anxious, I'm bored. I will take something chemical, and my depression, my anxiety, my boredom, my frustration will go away, meaning it's impacting my mind. Okay? So the drug example is just to make sure everybody understands where the brain is so intricately connected with what we identify as mind. So changing our brain is changing our mind. And therefore, the mind is something that's a lot harder for us to grasp and measure, but the brain is much easier. And so when you realize, well, I can change my brain, great, do it. Your mind will change. And what we know is that the brain changes based on habits. That's how the brain works. That's why tying these two fingers together or putting my arm in a sling or walking barefoot, every time you give yourself a new habit, the brain adapts. Learn a new language, your brain will change. It's a new habit. So now what you have to do is give yourself a habit of not letting the mind go wherever it wants to go. The minute the mind, you sit down to meditate, you say, I'm going to watch my breath. And the mind, the thoughts rush off to what happened in the office today. Well, don't let them go. Grab them. Bring them back. Do not allow your mind to jump on that thought. Bring it back. Bring it right back. Don't punish it. Don't yell at it. Don't analyze it. Don't start judging it. Because that's just the games of the mind again. Then you're in the mind. Just bring it back. Just bring it back. Just bring it back. And eventually, what you'll find is it will stay. But it's not going to stay the first time. Because it's had decades of being able to do whatever it wants. You're literally retraining the mind. And slowly, 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 it will work. An incredible scientist named Pavlov trained dogs to salivate at the sound of a bell. And then trained them to stop salivating at the sound of a bell. I'm not going to go into all the research, but the point being, by very simple techniques, ring a bell, feed them, ring a bell, feed them, ring a bell, feed them, slowly the bell itself makes these dogs start to salivate. Simple habit. Simple stimulus response. In the same way. Your brain, your mind has a stimulus. The mind is going to go off. Ah, that's fun. I know the past. I know the future. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Grudges, pain, fear, anxiety, desires, those are so much more fun than my breath. Let's go. The time I was abused, the time I was hurt, the time this, let's go. And you just bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. And slowly, if you stop rewarding it, see, up until now it's gotten a reward. Every time the mind has tried to go somewhere, it has been rewarded by being able to reach there, by having that experience. Stop rewarding it, stop rewarding it, stop rewarding it, bring it back. And slowly, like Pavlov's dogs, it will stop salivating at the sound of the bell. It's going to stop wanting to go there because it knows I'm not getting any reward. And it's going to stay put. But it takes practice. Just keep doing it. And lastly, if you've got a mantra, the mantra is a fantastic tool. Give something to the mind other than the thoughts for it to focus on. So you give it the breath, and if you can also give it a mantra, nothing like it. That'll train the mind to at least come to one place. That's when we talk about dharana. That's bringing the mind to one thing. Then slowly, slowly, when that becomes consistent, that becomes what we call dhyan, or meditation. But first we have to at least get dharana down. We have to first get that concept of at least being able to be focused on one thing. So bring it to that. And then slowly, slowly, slowly that'll shift into dhyan. And then slowly the meditator and the object of meditation and the act of meditation will become one.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. How do we increase our spiritual immunity? Great. You know that prayer we recite that says, Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Right? It's a beautiful, simple but not easy answer to this question. In 3 lines, we've been given a prescription for that spiritual immune system. And if you really take it deeply, for full enlightenment and moksha and everything else you may want. The prayer says, oh God, lead us from untruth to truth. Now, it doesn't mean from only little white lies to the end of little white lies. It doesn't even mean from the end of big cheating lies, or from big cheating lies to the end of big cheating lies. It means lead us from untruth, deep untruth. What is that deep untruth? It's that I am this body. It's that I am this identity. If I say to you, who are you? And you give me your name, and you give me your age, and you give me your city of origin, and you give me your job, and you give me your height and your weight and your profession and your bank account and your sexual orientation and your socioeconomic status, and you give me all of that. You may be giving me what you think are true answers. You're not purposely withholding anything from me. But it's still untruth on the deepest level, because that's not who you are. It's the right answer if I say to you, how old is your body? It's the right answer if I say to you, and how do you make a living? But if I say to you, who are you? And that's the answer you give me. It's untruth, not who you are. Because that keeps changing. Our age, our height, our weight, our bank account, everything keeps changing. If not within one life, certainly between lifetimes. What's consistent? Who is the I, even within one lifetime, that's consistent as the body keeps changing, as the roles keep changing? Who's that I? So the first untruth to truth is from identifying as this physical body to actually knowing the truth of who I am, which is soul, spirit. Every time you say to yourself, oh God, you're so stupid, untruth. It's also violence, but that's a different situation, different conversation. Untruth. Not because you're not stupid, but because on an even deeper level, the oh my God, I'm so stupid, or oh my God, I'm so ugly, or oh my God, I'm such a failure, or oh my God, any of those things that we say to ourselves, or even the opposite, oh God, I'm so great. Untruth. Because every one of those statements is based upon something I've just done, something I've accomplished, something I failed to accomplish, something I said that was really brilliant, something I said that was really stupid, whatever it may be. Based on physical body, role I'm playing, current role in the divine drama, untruth. Truth, soul, spirit, consciousness, love. Truth. That's who you are. And we say, oh God, lead me from darkness to light. Now, when we talk about darkness, again, it's darkness of ignorance. Who you are at the core is not dark. Many of us have a sense inside of, oh, I'm horrible, I'm a horrible person, I'm this, I'm that. And there really is a sense of inner darkness. But one of the most beautiful aspects to me of the Sanatan Dharma tradition, the Vedic tradition, what we call the Hindu tradition, is a core teaching that who you are at the core, at the source, is pure and perfect and divine and light. And it's only this ignorant identification with this temporary body that causes suffering. That identification, that ignorance, is the darkness. So when we say from darkness to light, it's from the darkness of ignorance to the light of truth. The darkness of separation. Separation from God, thinking I'm separate from God, thinking I'm separate from each other, separate from myself. And then lead us from death to immortality. Now this is really interesting because, of course, the body is made of matter. It disintegrates, degenerates at a very predictable rate. No way to keep the body forever, no way to even keep it beyond, 110, 120 years. There was a Swamiji when I first got here who was 125 years old, who was just amazing. But, there's stories, 125, 130, and that's for the highest level of enlightened yogis who also happen to have come in with very special genes. The body can't live forever. Most of them don't even last 100 years, 90 years. So when we're talking about a prayer, immortality? Impossible. So what does it mean? Doesn't mean, oh God, do the impossible. Doesn't mean, oh God, override your own laws of nature that you've created. It means, let me identify through light, through wisdom, through truth. Let me identify with the me who is already immortal, rather than with the me who is dying. Because we're all dying. Every one of us is a day closer to death every day. An hour closer to death every hour. We're all dying. So rather than identify with the me who's dying, let me identify with the me who is immortal. So that prayer, if you really take it and you really try to implement it in your life, it will give you a very robust spiritual immune system. Pujya Swamiji also has a special multivitamin of spiritual health that he gives, which is meditation. Begin the day with meditation. No reaction. All day long, whatever happens, don't react. Doesn't mean that you're not engaged. Doesn't mean you're not connected. But what it means is I act. I act based on my values, my ethics, my intention, my truth. Not react based on what samne wale, what the person in front of me is saying or doing. Because that's what most of us do, is we just react. We react to the people around us. Now we react to the beeps and the blips and the rings of our smartphones. We may be in the middle of doing something that we really wanted to do that was important. Suddenly we get a bleep, a blip, a ring, a bling, something. Now I'm off doing something else. It's a reaction. I was supposed to be doing this. I was reading, I was writing, I was doing something important. Suddenly, bleep, so-and-so posted this about you on Facebook. What? How dare they? Oh my God, I have to. Okay. Now, whatever I was doing, over. So, no reaction. And in the evening, introspection. How did the day go? How did I do? Not with judgment. Not with negativity toward the self, but just taking all of that which we did, what Pujya Swamiji calls our plus points and minus points. Whatever we did, offer them to God. Realize we're a tool in God's hands. The plus points are, of course, due to grace. The minus points are where our own darkness and ignorance came in. We just pray tomorrow, give me more light, more truth, more of an awareness of that infiniteness of who I am.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. Love is expansive. Love is me merging into you. Attachment, addiction, passion, dysfunction is you fill my holes. With you, I feel whole. Without you, I don't. The way you treat me, the way you speak to me, the way I feel with you makes me feel whole. It's a beautiful recipe for disaster. It's a very, very luxurious path to misery. Because it makes both of you stuck in continuing to be and behave and speak exactly the way you are in this moment, because any slight change no longer fills the other one. And this is where love turns to hate. When we met, you told me I was your everything. You told me I was beautiful. You told me I was the best. You told me I was so important to you. You told me all of that, and I felt full. Now we go to a wedding, and you are looking at that other lady, and I get you to admit that, yeah, you were attracted to her. I don't feel full anymore. I hate you. Because that hole is now gaping in me. And it hurts even more than it did before I met you, because you had filled it so nicely that now when we ripped it out, it's like a gaping wound in me now. You told me that everything I did was perfect and wonderful. And now you didn't touch your dinner because there wasn't enough salt in it. And you told me that it was really bad. I hate you. How dare you? Right? You see how this happens? This was not, I loved you, now I hate you. This was, I walked into this relationship full of holes. You filled those holes. You gave me a very beautiful, but very precarious experience of fullness. Because that experience of fullness was like, it's like somebody sticking their finger in a dam. Well, you're only safe as long as the person's finger is still in the dam. The minute that person has to turn around and go to the bathroom, or scratch their ear, or pick their nose, or do something with that finger, the dam bursts. So it's a very tenuous safety. And this is what most of our relationships look like. And this is why when people change, love goes to hate. It's not that I hate you. It's that because of you, I am now face to face with these gaping wounds in me. And I'm furious at you because you had lured me into believing that I was never going to have to face them again. You had given me this false sense, but so beautiful sense of fullness, that for a brief moment in time I was unaware of my unhealed self. And it was gorgeous. And now here I am again, face to face with my unhealed self. And it's your fault. Because if you loved me, you would keep your finger in that hole. And even if it meant you never went to the bathroom and you never itched your ear and you never picked your nose, you would do it if you loved me. And since you don't, I hate you. And that's what happens. But it's easy to see, of course, in this situation, that there never was love. There was need. There was holes and pegs, and they fit in nicely together. For love to really be love that takes us to the ultimate goal of permanent happiness, it cannot be rooted in you filling my holes. Because it can also go the other way. I had a hole that I felt not beautiful. You made me feel beautiful. But then I do my own work. I start meditating. I go to therapy. I realize I'm full and whole and complete and beautiful on the inside, and it no longer matters what shade my skin is. And then I realize, oh, I don't actually like you so much. But it had just felt really good temporarily to feel beautiful, but I no longer need that. And now I'm not interested in you. And then you turn around and you say, I hate you. Right? Because I loved you, or I pretended I loved you. I thought I loved you. You certainly thought you loved me. Maybe you really did love me. Maybe that's why you told me I was beautiful, even if I was hideous. But because I was only loving you due to that hole in me, if I'm going to stay in love with you forever, it means I have to stay with that hole in me forever. Love based on that means no one can actually heal themselves. Because to heal myself is a threat to our relationship. And that is not love. That is dependency. I mean, it's all sorts of things. But it isn't love. And so real love is rooted in a wholeness of me, really loves expanding further into the infinite with you. That's what our relationships give us, is the ability to expand further through the other being, because each of us is a reflection of the divine, an embodiment of the divine. And if you can really love another being in that way, then through that being, you have the potential, the possibility to experience loving God, to experience loving the universe. But you have to go into it whole. Because otherwise, you can't let go and expand. Otherwise, you're contracted. So in order to find the permanent happiness or even the temporary happiness that exists in love, you still need to have your spiritual practice. You still need that freedom, because only that gives you the wholeness. Only that makes you free of your mind, which is what's creating the experience of holes in you. So even if your goal is only temporary happiness, through love, if you're going to experience real love, you can only do that when you have a real experience of yourself. And you enter love like that. This brings to a close this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week. And I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time, on OMTimes Radio.